My name is Jimmy Knowles, Canva's Global Head of Experiential Marketing, and I am so excited to be here with you all today for this incredibly special session. Now, I want to start out with a question before I introduce our amazing guests. So I want to ask everybody in the audience to think about the last time a story made you forget where you were. Not entertained you, but a story that actually transported you, pulled you out of the room and put you somewhere else entirely. It's a very rare thing, and it is almost never an accident. Now, the person I'm about to bring out has made a career of doing exactly that, and he didn't start with money or connections or a roadmap. He started with a video camera, a borrowed VCR editor from a Sharper Image catalog, and a family couch in Los Altos, California. He is the youngest of 5. His parents ran a Chinese restaurant. He taught himself to edit on a stack of VCRs borrowed from his siblings' rooms, and he got discovered by Steven Spielberg at the age of 22. Very casual. And he spent the next 10 years figuring out how to deserve it. Step Up 2, The Streets. Any fans? Justin Bieber, Never Say Never. Bieber Fever. Gem and the Holograms. Yeah, come on. Now You See Me Too. Yes! A personal fave of mine. And then he made Crazy Rich Asians, a film, a moment for Crazy Rich Asians. A film that wasn't supposed to work by any metric Hollywood had at the time, and it completely changed the conversation. Then In the Heights. And then Wicked. And soon, tackling Dr. Seuss's Oh, the Places You'll Go, one of my favorite books ever. He also just released his first book, Viewfinder, a memoir of seeing and being seen. I've read it. I'd hand it to every person in this room if my arms were big enough. Not because it's a Hollywood story, but because it's a story about what it actually costs to trust your imagination when the world around you isn't sure that you should. Now, one more thing before he comes out, and I don't think this is incidental to the conversation that we're about to have. Jon and I are both theater kids, unapologetically, I might add. Theater kids run the world. Don't you forget that. For me, almost everything that I understand about creating experiences, about what it means to walk into a room and make people feel something, came from the stage. And I think theater is where a lot of us first learn that worlds can be built. That with the right combination of story, light, sound, and tension, you can make a room of strangers feel the same thing at the same time. That is world building at its most elemental. And nobody working in film today understands that more instinctively than our next guest. Please welcome director, producer, screenwriter, and world builder, Jon M. Chu. Of course. Jon Chu, everybody.
What's up? Thanks for being here. Is this last day? Is this what day?
This is one day.
Okay.
At the moment.
One short day. There we go.
Crushed
there
it.
You go. You're good.
Crushed it. This is one short day at the moment.
I didn't know we were gonna have hecklers here today.
Yeah, no. I feel like we've got a couple theater kids in the audience. So.
Good.
Yeah.
My people.
Yeah, our people. Our people are here.
I was usually in the lighting booth though. They were like, maybe not up here. Go back there. It was fun. It was great.
Jon, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Now, I want to start off today before the career, before Wicked, before the studio, before USC, because I read Viewfinder very closely. And there's something you write about imagination that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Mm-hmm. You describe it almost as a refuge, kind of like this place where you could exist fully when other spaces didn't quite feel like they were yours. And I want to ask you, what did imagination mean to you before it became your job?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm sure we're all creators here, so you all have that little safe space, and maybe you didn't know it before you started to actually create, but it's always there inside of you. And I grew up in the Bay Area, like you said, in my oh yes. In the 80s and 90s, it was a very, I don't know how it is now. I don't spend a lot, my family's all there, but and my family's restaurant is still there 56 years later. Yeah. Where I used to dream in the bar there, folding napkins, doing my homework. And I was the youngest of 5 kids, so everyone was very loud and you had to fight for your food. And so I was always like the little guy, and I wasn't the sports star or anything of that. It was in my drawings that I knew, and it was the things that I watched when I went to see Phantom of the Opera. It was like, oh my God, I bought the porcelain mask, I got the beach towel,
Iconic.
I got the pins, I had
Full
the
merch
pop-up book.
lineup,
Like,
yeah.
it's pretty. And I remember just like absorbing it and singing it and bringing the songs home and singing it, and it became a part of my life. When Tim Burton's Batman came out, I remember having the toys and bringing that story into my backyard. I know that that's where I became a storyteller, was with my toys in the backyard. There'd be like week-long epics. I'd hide the toys in the trees. And so I think that it was my place that I could express myself when my words weren't good enough yet. And still my words aren't good enough yet. It's the images and the feeling of what it feels like to be in this world. And what I didn't know is how much other people felt the same. And so I think imagination is actually a reflection of who we actually are. You know, they say we don't actually create anything. We're actually revealing it from a piece of us. And technology maybe helps us reveal it, or finding that pencil or that special brush or that color that we became, it speaks to us at a deeper level. And so I always try to go back to what it feels like for someone, an audience member, taking what you're saying in. And art can happen on many levels. Art can just be in existence, and that it is what it is, and great, it exists, and that is amazing and beautiful things. But I connected into storytelling through what I received, and I always am looking for how to connect us all in those things, as I know how it connected me.
Now, when imagination becomes this professional instrument for you, right? When you're adapting a script that has its own history, its own weight, how does imagination guide the earliest decisions that you're making as part of your process? What are you imagining first before anything else exists?
Ooh, that's a great question too. I guess every project's different. You know, sometimes a project comes to me, they're like, hey, what do you think about this project? And it either sparks me or not, or I have to go on a sort of a journey to find if I connect with it. Other times I'm like, I have to tell this story. And so I remember what I realized as I have done this over and over again, and you are self-conscious when you do it, because you're not like the greats. But the greats are the ones that inspired you. You want to be like them so badly, and you don't have quite the language or the tools or the ability or the craftsmanship yet of how to express that. And so for me, where I start is ultimately now is meaning of why. Why am I the person to tell the story? When you said on my list of movies, it lit up when you said Crazy Rich Asians. And that was a big point in my life. I didn't think I deserved to be in Hollywood. I was discovered, and I got very lucky. And when you win the lottery, you think you actually don't know how you got there. So you actually can't win the lottery again. So I had to learn how to win in a different way, or how to tell my story. And so I think that's, as I go through my career, that moment of choosing to do something that only I could tell. It was I was like, no one's gonna see this movie. I actually told my team, I was like, I'm gonna make a movie, I'm gonna take 5 years, and I'm not gonna make you any money. And I hope that's okay.
Sure, they loved that.
Luckily, they were fine with it.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, go figure it out. And they believed in me. And this Asian culture, diaspora from all around the world, I knew there was beauty. I knew that an audience, whether you were Asian or not, could fall in love with the things that I fall in love with my family, and the meals that we eat, and the conversations we have. And we could make fun of ourselves and how we are, and we had all walks of life in there. And so making that choice of saying, the reason I'm doing this is because it needs to exist, and because I think people will plug into this. That's how I start everything. Because without that, I can't tell you what color something is. I can't tell you what we should build for it. It doesn't mean anything to me. We have plenty of stuff, and with AI even more so. We have plenty of visual things, but what is it that you're actually, and I think it becomes more important as technology progresses, is what are we actually saying?
Could not agree with you more violently. We talk a lot, certainly in violent agreement.
Yeah. I felt that, though. I got it.
To be clear.
I got it.
a violent alignment.
Yeah.
We talk so much at Canva, and obviously so much of what you've seen today, AI kind of like integrating its way into every aspect of our life. I think we are firm believers that the heartbeat of every creative idea, every creative concept, every creative project will always be a human heartbeat. It's
Yeah.
the most important thing we can be doing now more than ever. So I love that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Wicked for a second.
Yeah.
Selfishly, yeah. I mean, I'm presenting a lot of restraint right now. To be fully transparent.
This is very restrained.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you.
A lot of
I
restraint.
might have gotten blinded just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
I may have watched Wicked 150 times. No joke. It is my comfort movie. It is what I put on in the background when I'm just home alone and chilling. It means so much to me, and what you did with the film is just so iconic. And I've read so much about your process and craft. When you've shared that when you were working on Wicked, you mapped scenes by the emotion that you wanted the audience to feel, which I find so fascinating. And that was the first thing that happened before anything else, before blocking, before the design, before a single technical decision was made. Can you share more about how emotional planning actually guides your process? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, for Wicked specifically, the why and why now, it was during COVID when they came to me, and I mean, I've watched it so many times, and I love Wicked, and I also have my things of like, oh, this is why it wouldn't work as a movie. There's so many questions here or there, but during COVID, I was like, if I agree to do Wicked, am I just going back to like IP movies again, or is there a real reason this needs to be? Coming off Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, I knew what a movie could do to a culture. And I went back through the lyrics, and it was the moment it said, Elphaba's words, something has changed within me, something's not the same. Mm-hmm. And during those COVID lockdowns, I felt that very deeply, more than I had ever felt that. And this idea that the future we had no idea what the future and how scary that could be. But also that the story, because Wizard of Oz is the great American fairy tale. And we have been raised off of Disney movies and all these things that inspired me, and Spielberg movies and Michael Jackson music, and then just had all this hope and thing. And suddenly we live in a world in COVID, like all that tore down, and like, oh no, the grown-ups don't know what we're doing? Oh my gosh, what are all the rules? All the rules we agreed on are off the table. And so now we are rebuilding the story of who we are. And I felt like that was such, rather than be a cynic about it and say, burn it all, we were actually in a building period. And I believe we are still in that, we're gonna be in there for a while.
Yeah.
But then that means story is even more important. That data, we are getting all the information we ever wanted. The library is around us. We don't have to go to Barnes & Noble to pull out that magazine. We can get it anytime. So much so that the information doesn't mean anything to us anymore. And that's a scary place to be. But through story, you could connect information to what it means to us, and that could sink deeper. I knew that as a filmmaker we could do that. And so with Wicked, it was the emotion of what happens when the fairy tale goes away. Then you discover who you are. Who are you when you know the truth? So once I know that, then I had to build out each scene. I didn't care about the plot. The plot was the plot. It already existed, actually. But what did I want the audience to feel to get to that conclusion that that unknown future is the opportunity, is the beautiful thing we're reaching for, is the unknown. And so that each scene, then I would have to say, okay, Elphaba, in the beginning, she's yearning. So rather than me tell my costume designer, okay, she's got to be the only one with angles, and the only one, like I don't even know how to describe clothing, but I could say to all my departments, I need her to yearn. I need to be the outstanding person in this field. And they're like, okay, if you want this to feel real and not like a dream of Oz, then we have to actually plant that field. And we actually have to have her in a green that nobody else has that same green. And the camera work has to have a lot of negative space. When we are up there, she gets to the horizon, and we have to create an edge to that horizon. And she has to get to that, and we can mirror that at the end, where instead of stopping, she goes through. And what happens is when she goes through, she doesn't do what she always dreamed of and expected, she actually falls. And when she falls, she finds her true purpose, because you only know when you're put to the fire of why you're doing something. And so those things weren't necessarily planned when I was in my bedroom imagining Wicked. It was each emotion in every scene, that's what I'm communicating. I could track where the audience was feeling these things, yearning or deception or resentment. And that was our guiding principle. Not camera angles, although those did play into it. So what angles then tell that story? So it all came down to those things.
It's absolutely fascinating. We're going to talk a little bit about your co-collaborators later, which I'm really excited to get into. But what I find so compelling about that is how the emotional intention ends up really shaping every single element of what lands on screen, right? To your point, the lighting, the music, the movement, they never feel decorative. They feel like they're doing emotional work. And in Wicked specifically, the lighting makes Oz feel lived in rather than constructed. I read a lot about your approach to how the film was lit. You wanted it to feel like a real world. It wasn't this fantastical place, which it is, but it was a place that these people lived. It was their world. So how do you use those elements together between light, sound, movement to build the emotional truth in a scene before anyone has spoken a word? And what does it take to keep characters feeling genuinely human when the world around them is fantastical?
Yeah. Well, what I love about a movie, specifically in the medium, is you're sitting in the dark and you're sitting around strangers and you've agreed, you've paid your money up front to sit back, phone down, to hear a story. And we have only certain channels to get to you. We have the screen and we have the sound, and that's it. And we need to use every moment of that. And if the screen is 50% and the sound is 50%, the sound might actually be 52% actually, because we also process information differently when we hear sound, then all have to be working in concert. Now you add on top of that a fantastical world. Okay, now you have to get the audience to buy into this world actually existing, or not. I mean, you can create a world that it just feels floaty and poofy and all those things, and that can be a great movie. But for this one, the emotions had to be, it's a movie about truth. So we had to actually express truthful emotions, which means not typical fairy tale ideas, but complicated, nuanced, and messy emotions that contradicted each other sometimes. And you can only use what you see and what you hear. And so lighting has such a big part of that. The sounds, and not just the notes of the music, but the sound quality of the voice. Does it sound recorded? Because you clearly know when something's recorded. Or now people know when it has a little auto-tune. So everyone's very aware of the seams. So then you're hiding those things and you're trying to immerse somebody so that they, the thing I try to get when I watch an audience watch the movie is when suddenly they're like this and their mouth slightly opens and they've let go. Awe is the most powerful thing because now they're connected. And if you're using sound, music, vocal, how that mix, you're using color, you're using texture, you're using light. This is from In the Heights. And In the Heights actually maybe of a tougher world because it is a full-on musical on the real streets of Washington Heights that has to feel authentic. So in my mind, when you're sitting in the theater, you just feel stuff coming into you. But we actually, in the construction of what we're building, is a very complicated box of flashing lights and things to break you down, to get you to that awe moment. And so even when they're singing, how do you lay a song on top of a real story that feels genuine? Oh, sometimes you have to break the song. I mean, how scary it was to break Defying Gravity up in pieces, and how many debates we had about were we allowed to do that. But in the end of the day, it had to be the end of a movie, not the middle of a story. It had to build to this moment. And if you're going to do that, sometimes the silence is what was going to cut through. So when she falls through that window, it is not the sound of the wind that gets you. It's when it all clears away and you just hear, or you don't even hear the little girl, but you feel like you hear the little girl and she reaches out. And then when she catches the broomstick, that catch, the sound of that catch, we had to create that. It's like a baseball in a home run and you caught the catch. And then she can sing, and then the orchestra kicks in, and then you lift her up, and now the speed of the camera's going, and you're bringing the audience up, and you surprise them because they didn't expect this in the movie, and then she says the words, "It's me." So when she sings Defying Gravity, that is the whole part of the movie, the whole theme of the whole film. And so all those things play in concert together. Long answer to your very short question. I'm so sorry.
No,
But works together. You know every piece of this.
totally.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm ready to cancel the rest of Canva Create. I just want to watch. Should we just throw Wicked on? I'm gonna do it tonight anyway.
But that picture you saw up there from in the Heights, that's a real tunnel in Washington Heights.
Yeah.
It's classic, and those were all real graffiti artists that had painted. We had to find everyone and clear their arts, and some that we didn't, we just had to frame out. But to say that this place that people walk every day could be the place when Abuela Claudia is passing away at this point, but she's in her mind, she's on a bed, and you go to this place, that the tunnel that you're going through isn't just light that has no context. It is the tunnel that you went through every day with the people that you went through and the ancestors around at the end. All the ancestors are lined up in the back. Like, maybe an audience member never gets that. But for us, we have to have the purpose in what we're making. Otherwise, you have zero chance of receiving the message that we're trying to say.
One of my most favorite scenes from the entire film, truly, like exceptionally done.
Thank you.
Now that idea of emotional truth leads me to something that I've always really been curious about in your films. There are moments of pure grandeur, right? They are visually overwhelming, they're emotionally enormous, but the moments that sometimes land the hardest are when you pull back entirely. It's a single face, it's a held beat, it's silence. How do you decide when a moment needs that scale and when restraint actually creates a bit more resonance? What's the test for knowing when spectacle is genuinely serving the story versus beginning to distract from it?
Well, I think it's the nature of musical in general. I mean, it is made for the stage initially to sort of accentuate and express out to the back of the house. And a movie is the opposite of that. We're actually bringing you so intimate that we can be 4 inches from your face and see what you're saying is actually a lie, even though the actor's performing it as a truth. And so you have those kind of dynamics coming into a movie. And a movie like Wicked, you want to be swept up. And when you go to One Short Day, you want to be swept up in that. And we have the tools to be able to sweep you up more than a show on a stage. That we can actually bring you up into the air. We can actually make you be in Elphaba's point of view and look down. And so for me, big or small, it's about the truth that you're trying to reveal. And so most of the time, a moment like this, where we wanted to show her first green as an adult, just by something as human as possible, not a character thing, not her coming out, stomping in, and then you see her silhouette and the light comes up and it's her. No. What's the thing to indicate first to us that this is just a human being? And Cynthia did this while I was talking to her, and I was like, that. And Dana Fox, our writer, and Winnie had mentioned something about a scratch, and at first, Cynthia didn't understand, like, you want me to move my hair like that? I don't know. But then when we were talking, she did it. And I was like, you just did it. And she's like, oh, okay, I understand that. And so when she walks in, the first thing, yes, you see some of her boots, you see some of the things, but the first thing we get access to is just her, like, moving the hair across her face. And we get to repeat that throughout the movie to remind us, even when she's superhero in movie 2, she's just a girl
Same thing.
that believes in something.
Yeah.
And so those moments are in the Ozda's ballroom when in the show, when she comes down with the hat on and everyone laughs at her, it's actually kind of a joke because she does awkward, funny movements and you're supposed to laugh, and then Glinda does awkward, funny movements. And it does get intimate, but it is about this sort of, oh, she's weird and they're weird and they all can be weird together. But what Cynthia and Ari were doing in that rehearsal was so much deeper. I mean, Cynthia was bringing like years of things into this, deciding when she was going to lift her head up in the silence, despite everyone staring at her, because she was going to bring dignity to this character, and not as a joke, laugh at the Green Witch. She really took Elphaba seriously. I think it's why when they like erased her face in one of the posters before our movie had come out, nobody understood the context of the movie. But we have lived 2 years. She had owned Elphaba at this point. And so to erase her face in that, I understood from her. Maybe the world didn't understand at that moment. And maybe now that you see the movie, you understand that was so core to her to not be erased from this. No matter how much you want to pay attention to Glinda, the whole journey was paying attention to Elphaba. And so anyway, those little things, it is those details that people remember Wicked. Of course, what is this feeling? It's so fun. Oh, this is so fun, defying gravity. But the reason why defying gravity hits is because you know all the things before. And so when she rises to the top and she's in front of everybody and she's pointing right to the wizard and she's saying, no wizard there is or ever was is ever going to bring me down, you know exactly the journey she's been through. And that is what I think cinema can do when you have a song and costumes and all the things and message all lined up together.
So good. Honestly, the moment from the second film, right in the beginning, where she does that exact same movement, to me is one of the most powerful things, because you immediately recognize it. And that callback to of just her growth and how much she's changed, even though it's the same movement, you can feel that there's something different about her doing it now and how she's evolved. It's truly, truly fascinating.
Yep.
I want to ask you about a personal story, because I think it tells this better than any theory could. Now, in your conversation with Adam Grant, you described a moment at USC, a student film screening. The film ends, there's an Asian guy at the door, and the whole room laughs, and you don't understand why, and then you do.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? Because I do think it's one of the most honest accounts of what happens when representation, what representation actually costs when it's been absent.
I mean, I grew up very protected in the Bay Area. My parents owning a Chinese restaurant, that's sort of a place that everybody knows. I was like popular because we got free food after the soccer game.
I mean, come on.
People come there every birthday, let's go. So I didn't understand what I would feel when I came to the big city of Los Angeles and the way people look at you or treat you differently, and that's not just being Asian, that's just being a person in LA. And immediately the skepticism in you, your age, what you wear, all those things. And I felt that very abruptly. And at the same time, I'm learning who I am, going to college, finding new friends, and which group do I fit in. And then being part of the film school was a huge honor. This is the spot. And so they have these senior films. They only choose 4 directors, and they screen them, and everybody crews on those films, and then they show it to the school. So I got to go, and we were like, oh, these are the senior films. This is the goal. If you're going to direct, you got to be one of those 4 people who direct. And so we're all in there, and there's a big buzz, and I'm there with my friends, and we're watching. I'm a freshman. And there's a romantic comedy about a girl who dates all these people. And there's a sequence at the end where she keeps opening the doors, and they're all terrible, prospects. And it's like this person and that person, they're all funny and they're all doing their thing. And the last person's an Asian guy. And there's not anything funny about him. It's just an Asian guy. And she says, no. And she slams the door. And the whole audience laughed. I literally did not understand the joke. I was like, what just happened? Did I miss something? And they're like, no. And my friend was like, oh, it's because it's like a Asian dude. And I was like, what? That's the joke? This is USC, we're in LA, and and it made me so, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It made me so angry or like confused, more confused than angry. I just didn't understand. And the more I dug in, the more I understood why that joke occurs, because we've been told that it's a joke, that guy is a joke from movies. And it made me go home and be like, I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna be one of those 4 directors, and I'm gonna make the exact opposite of that movie. And a few years later, I got that job, and I wrote a script called Xiao Guai Lo, which means white devil. But more like little foreigner, and it's what they call, it's more of what they call me. They called me that when I went to Taiwan for the first time, or when I took Hong Kong for the first time, which should feel like coming to a place that everyone looks like you. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be great. And they treat me like a cousin or a thing. And then all the kids there are like, oh, you're American. You're that guy. You're a Twinkie, whatever. And so I was like, I have no place in any of these things. And so I made this video, this film, Guai Lo, about a kid who lives in America and is going through a cultural identity crisis. It was a musical, of course.
Duh.
And I was making it, and the questions that I was putting in it, I kept getting questions from my other students, because I would show the dailies. You show your work as you're making it. And they'd be like, I don't know, John, it sounds like you're exaggerating. Do people really say that to you? And I was like, yeah. My fraternity brothers, as a joke, wanted to call me Napalm. Like, that is how like okay we are with this. And so I made the thing, and at the end I was so like, I had so many questions from people that I didn't want to show this film. We showed it that night and it went great, but I never sent it to film festivals. I never put it online. You can't see it anywhere because there was a part of me that didn't know the answers yet for people. Not that I had to, but I felt very self-conscious about the movie. And I would never revisit that subject matter again. I made a short after that, a musical short, of course, about the secret life of mothers, which I know nothing about, but it was a great fun musical. And that is what got me my ticket into Hollywood. It's the one that Steven Spielberg saw. And so I was rewarded bigger for not doing that. And so for 10 years, from Now You See Me to all those movies, step-up movies, it was, I couldn't be the Asian director. I just wanted to be a director. Yeah. And it wasn't until I decided to do Crazy Rich Asians that I would revisit that idea. It's the moment where when I was doing Now You See Me, I'd worked with all these great actors, and Now You See Me, Mark Ruffalo, and Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman. I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. So then what am I doing? And I went back to what would I say if I was in college? I was like, oh gosh, it's that Guaylo thing. And I found this book that could bridge that gap. An Asian American going to Asia for the first time. And what does that feel like? So it all connected in a way, 20 years later after making that short, that I would make Crazy Rich Asians.
And very soon a Crazy Rich Asians musical? Is that right?
That is actually true. We are making a musical. We're rehearsing right now in New York. I'm supposed to be there, but I came here just to make sure I can talk to you guys. It's true.
How good.
It's really exciting. It's made for a musical, a stage musical.
Geeking out, cannot wait. Representation obviously feels very intentional in everything you make, and I think audiences connect most deeply when they can genuinely see themselves in a world where there's that familiarity. How do you think about creating those emotional entry points, especially when you're introducing an audience to a universe that's entirely new to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think as an entertainer, our job is not to force anything on. I mean, our job number one is to entertain. I mean, that's, to me, the key, because you cannot unlock someone unless you pull their curiosity in and make them want to know more. And so I find that when we're crossing a message that I want to communicate, I have to go through entertainment first. I could make that art film, and that would be great, and people do that, and I love those movies. But my role, what I find my power to be, is I am a common moviegoer, and I have those same questions, and I have those same needs from a movie. And so when I'm introducing, but I also know, because I basically lived in a Chinese restaurant, I know if the audience knew more, they would love this. If they knew when that restaurant closes down that the chefs eat the stuff that's in, they make it all into a stew that they didn't deliver to people, and they make it into a stew, that is the best food. It might not be the healthiest, but it is the best tasting. And if they were with me, if they were my buddy, that's all they'd want to do is like, let's go after hours. Okay, great. When I drive home from LA to the Bay Area, my dad's up at night, and he waits for me, and he's like, are you hungry? It's 2 in the morning. I'm like, yeah. Opens up that kitchen, he's taking stuff from McDonald's or any leftover, and he's making it into a dish. Like, that is the best. So good. And so I just think, rather than change who you are for everybody else, give them avenues and opportunities to understand you and where you are, and you don't have to change. And I think in a movie, we get that opportunity to do that, so.
Now, this sense of recognition of kind of like seeing yourself in a world is also what makes adapting beloved works so high stakes, right? Wicked, In the Heights, very soon, Oh, the Places You'll Go. These are works that people have deep personal relationships with. And you're carrying the weight of what they already love while still making something that has to be genuinely, unmistakably yours. So how do you stay true to your own creative convictions in that process? How do you hold your instincts when there's that much expectation in the room?
I think most of you know this, but creativity is hard. The audience sees it, and our job is to make it look easy, like it just happened. And we know that it didn't just happen, whether it took iterations or took you to crash and burn to create the next thing, to get to there. And I think that process is something that if you are in our business or if you're looking to get into our business, better get used to it. It is what we were built for if you stick around. And you don't get better unless you stick around. The world owes you nothing. You do not have the right to tell a story that people like or accept or watch. You have a right to make whatever you want with whatever resource you want. But you don't, it is ultimately a marketplace. And the only thing where you're gonna cut through, if you really wanna cut through, is you gotta survive and you gotta figure out how to get your story told in the way that you need to get your story told. Again, everyone has their own methods to do that, but I think that you have to be fully built for this and do not expect, I want to tell my story, they have to listen. No, you gotta be a warrior. You gotta be in that ground. You gotta be, when you're lying, and this really happened, lying on the floor in your kitchen after a day of shooting, and you're like, this is not going well. And your wife is like, you'll get through it, and you're like, you have no idea the pressure that I feel. But we're built for it.
Yeah.
If you belong here. So keep walking, and that's the only thing you can actually control. For Wicked, of course, I know everyone has their knives out. Even when we cast Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, the amount of commentary is just enormous. But my job is to get the thing made and get it in front of you. My job is not to take in your commentary over there and feel it and adjust my thing. Like, I gotta get it to you. So I can't be involved in the debates. Maybe that's other people's jobs. Maybe that's other people on my team's job. But that's not my job. I am laser focused. Get it made. Get it made. You know how hard it is to get it? You all know how hard it is to get it made. To cross those obstacles and stuff. That is not nothing work. That is your job. And your job is to balance how to get that art in there and get your message in there. And I just think, hallelujah, it's the best job in the world to be able to fight through that. And that's why community is great too, because you can get through it together.
Can I get a hallelujah?
Hallelujah. I have never said hallelujah to a crowd before, but I'm feeling it.
You need to start saying it more. Bring hallelujah back.
Amen.
Now, we did talk a little bit earlier about your co-collaborators, and I want to shift to the people behind the work, because you genuinely cannot talk about world building without talking about the teams who build those worlds alongside you. I never in 16 million years would have been able to do anything that anybody sees outside without the brilliant team that works alongside me and doing everything we do here at Canva Create. Now, you've credited your collaborators as genuine co-creators, not just contributors.
Yeah.
And in Viewfinder, and in your conversation with Adam Grant, you talk about something that I think is really underexplored in creative leadership, and it's how emotionally difficult it is to let people play with your toys. At Canva, we talk about the idea of like giving up your Lego. But this idea to invite someone in and watch them interpret something differently than you imagined it, and to hold yourself open to that. So what does it actually mean to give actors, designers, creative teams real ownership in shaping a world, and how do you empower those voices without losing the core of your own vision?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really painful. It's not the fun thing. I mean, the reality is you have a vision when you start something, hopefully. You can make your entry point in any way, actually. I'd come in with only half an idea and trusted this process that it was going to find its way out. But this is this is a video of us. So that's the model of the tree. You know, I wanted an exotic Oz tree, and they created this little model, but then they build it. And that's like styrofoam that they carved the big tree out of. So you can see kind of like where we started in the office room and then where they're actually building the big tree that became our forest in Oz. But yeah, for instance, in the scoring of our movie, not the music, but the scoring. The music exists, and the score is very difficult, and the score can make you feel something, and you're temping music in that doesn't exist yet. You're just using music just to get the story down as you edit. And then you have a composer come in. And there's a composer that can do exactly how you tempt it. And that's very comforting, but you're never gonna get more than what exists already, because you're using a song that already exists. And you're like, and then that note hits, and then she turns her head, and I love that. And our composer, Jon M, who's brilliant, doesn't wanna hear one note of a temp. So he watches your movie with no music. And so he has no context to what you just spent 6 months editing to get perfect. And there's a version where I say, you gotta hit that beat. He turns her head, you gotta hit a beat to turn that. Or there's a version where, show me what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And he starts to create, and you're like, that part is interesting. I was not expecting that. Let me change my cut to match that. Or, I wasn't expecting that, but it makes me feel something different, which means this part is different. Is that better or worse? Actually, that helps what I want to do. Or there's a part where I'm really like, why can't this guy just do what I'm asking him to do? And I have very real conversations with John Powell in that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm resisting this because I have screened this movie 3 times and we have scored very high, and this is the moment everyone remembers, and your music is changing it, and I'm not ready to let go of that yet. So I need time, and maybe I may need versions of what you're trying to do to get there. In For Good, there's a moment where they shut the door on each other and they say goodbye for the last time.
I can't.
That was not in the show, but in rehearsal, I didn't call cut. The girls made up this moment. And it affected me so deeply that I was like, we need to put that in. So I needed to go to Stephen Schwartz and Whitney Holtzman, who have lived with this for 20-something years, and say, I needed this door moment. And in the door moment, they whispered to each other, I love you. And she says, I love you too. And they're like, you cannot say I love you in Oz. Like, it's too much of a human thing that you can't. I was like, but it happened and it's really beautiful. And they had to trust me, and we had a lot of arguments about why we needed to do, like, they've earned it. 2 movies later, they earned this. And in the edit room, I had to re-question that. And in the score, he had other music going on that didn't let it go silent for that moment and just let us settle in here. He was going big with it. And so every argument, I go home basically in distress, thinking, am I making the right choices? Are they gonna kill me for this? But in every situation that I have said, let's go down the road, and I can always turn back, usually going down the road has led to something I could have never imagined on my bed when thinking of it. And that is the magic. And I think more than ever with AI, those little discoveries where it's uncovering itself to you, the universe is literally presenting you with a reality that is happening that cannot be preconceived, that is the gold. And so, and the director is the only, and you as leaders are the only person who can say, instead of going this way, which everyone planned for 6 months, actually on the day of, we're gonna go this way. You're the only one who can do that. So they're relying on you actually to make those choices. So I think going through that experience enough times, I'm used to that terror.
Totally.
And torture, but somehow we get through it.
Shockingly, there's only a minute and a half left of this conversation.
My answers are 30 minutes long. You didn't know that?
No.
So,
I literally could sit in here for the next 3 hours, and I think everybody else would probably also sit here.
Let's do it.
And
Let's go.
Let's get comfortable. I mean, I'm down. But also, we're going to go over, because I'm the boss, and I say we can. So. Yeah. Just a little bit. Don't kill me, whoever's listening. I will make this our closing reflection. This has been such an incredibly generous conversation. This is truly a dream come true. I genuinely cannot fathom the fact that I'm sitting across from you right now having this conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
I know we have a room full of creatives here, designers, filmmakers, brand builders, marketers, educators, people building worlds.
Hecklers.
Hecklers. People building worlds at very different scales, with very different tools, with very different budgets. Now, as we close, what is one principle of world building that every single person in this room can take with them, regardless of the scale or the medium of their work?
Dream bigger than you ever think you could. I think that's the missing piece of what we're teaching people now. Everyone's like, fit in the box or do what you can. No, dream bigger. It's what I grew up in the Silicon Valley being taught. Yes, you want to change the world. Sounds really cheesy and we're over it and we've heard it so many times. But I witnessed it. the world has changed for me by other things that I've watched or heard. And I've seen what a Crazy Rich Asians can do to a business. I've seen what a Cynthia Erivo singing those words can do to a business. I've seen what a Johnny playing Fierro can become the sexiest man alive. I've seen what, having Nessa Rose be an actor that knows what it's like to be in a wheelchair. I've seen what it does to those people. No matter what industry says, because they all act on precedent. Corporations, that's what the only thing it's a structure, it's the only way they can operate. It is what it is, but you can change precedent too. And once you change precedent, imagine what you can do. So before you close yourself off and say, I can only do this little thing, dream as big as you can. Maybe not all of them will work, but one will, 2 might, 3 maybe. But we need you to do that. You're the only ones who can.
This is exactly the conversation I hope we'd have today, and a reminder that I think every great world starts with the same way, with someone brave enough to imagine it. Jon, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, guys.